Some of the issues that I want to be clarified regarding the LAPP and the location. We've been retailing in New Brighton for approximately 30 years. The last 15 years of our retail business has changed, as many other businesses have changed in New Brighton. We moved into more smoking accessories, including pipes, bongs, papers, grinders. Then we moved into a substance called BCP, which I think you guys should all know about. It was banned, outlawed, we ceased selling it. So then we had to come up with another plan. The next plan was a smoking product, commonly known as synthetic cannabinoids. We started promoting that 7 years approximately. We were the first, I believe, to put an R18 warning on it. We wouldn't sell to anybody underage. Then the new laws come along and said you can't do this, you can't import it, you can't wholesale it, you must do this, you must do that. So then we applied for an interim licence through the health department, who I found to be very helpful, and we got an interim licence. Then we thought that we were safe, so I approached my landlord and applied for a 6-year lease, paid 3 years in advance to hold my site, because the health department stated that the product must be sold from that address and cannot be shifted. We have 5 staff, and we put our life savings into it by revamping the shop, high-tech security, surveillance cameras, offered the IP address to the police to prove that we're not selling to underages and abiding by the laws. I'd also like to note clause, this is all new to me by the way guys, my lawyer's supposed to be doing this, clause 4.16 of the report says, or suggests that an exemption can be granted so the policy could become effective at the same time as the ministry regulation. That would give us approximately 6 months to prepare for changes, and it could be used as a legal review. I'd also like to note that there is a school near our shop, a huge distance away, and it's getting shut. I'd also like to note there is a fish sculpture next to my shop, which has been called a park, which to me is a complete joke. As I mentioned before, we've been there for 30 years. The fish and the park, we were there first. The park was taken away 10 years ago. The fish sculpture was put there. They're classing it as a park. I've been in close contact with the health department over the last 9 months. Like I said before, they've been brilliant. They did a 10-point test or a 20-point test given to me. I think it's here. You guys have got it. I am pretty impressed with it. They were very impressed with it. My wife and I have spent a fortune in this industry. I don't want to get pushed or bullied by you guys. I'm here for the long haul, and without being rude or without being rude or prejudiced, I will take this to the ends of the earth to prove my point. You're doing a good job. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
All right. Can I just, before we take questions, the proposal that the council's considering today is that we adopt a policy to put out for public consultation. So we are not making a decision today.
Yeah, I realise that.
On the okay, right.
I just want to be two steps.
So I just want to be cautious because this is somebody who has you have a temporary licence.
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to caution against questioning. We've heard the message, and I think that we have to just simply take that on board. I don't want anyone. I don't want to end up with anyone having to recuse themselves from decision making, having heard from, one person affected by
a.
Yeah, but we have a deputation from one person who's affected. I'm just exercising a little bit of caution around it, that's all. I don't know that it's necessary. I think you've made your point very, very clearly, that you don't want to have this particular proposal go out for public consultation. Is that right?
Well, my lawyer is supposed to be here, so I got all night trying to do this. I've never done a public speech in my life.
Well, you've done very well.
Thank you. Thank you.
But I don't know that there will be anything gained by asking questions. It's just, I mean, you've
Can
made...
I interrupt?
Yep.
I'm quite happy to answer any.
Yes, I know that.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm not necessarily thinking that it's helpful that we end up with councillors taking a position on something that will go out for public consultation. So there will be an opportunity for people like yourself and others to make submissions on that before it comes back for a decision.
I'd just like to say I'm not going to back down, that's all.
Yeah. But there is a process for you to continue to have an input. Yeah, good.
Thank you.
All right. So are there any questions? Paul?
Would you agree that there should be some restriction of where these things are located in regards to sensitive sites? When I talk about sensitive sites, I talk about schools and some of those things there, because of the potential harm.
Honestly, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just not sure if I've missed someone out. Was Tony Shipley here as well?
Yes.
Sorry, I should have invited you up at the same time. I don't know how that happened. And Jenny Zhu?
Yes.
Do you want to come up together?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Okay.
My colleague would like to speak first on this.
Yep. Thank you.
Morning, my name's Jenny from the RH10 shop on Lincoln Road. I had a probably similar problem like Michael, and our shop's on the Lincoln Road, which is we get complaining from the next door, which is next 2 doors as a ComCare, which they doing supporting the mental health problem and the drug problem and the alcohol problem. They thinking we are too close to their business and might affect them to do their right job. And I think we are not close enough to them, because that's what we need them to supporting us, to supporting people who's having a drug problem or alcohol problem. That's what the best place to work in there, because the people who work into my shop might need help. We might need help as well, especially like people have a mental problem. We are not specialists for them. Say, hey, you have a mental problem, I can't sell the product. We need a ComCare coming to help us, coming to talk to us. How can we refuse to sell the product to that kind of people? Not just say, you guys have to move. If we move, what are they going to do? Have a look on the Lincoln Road at the moment. There's a whole streets of bars and the tobacco shop and everything. Every morning you drive past there at 7 o'clock, lots of people waiting outside the alcohol shop or bars, waiting for the drink, for the alcohols and stuff. And I was talking to come here one day. I said, why you guys not go ask them? Look at their face. They're probably drinking 24 hours, 7 days. Ask them, do you looking for a job? Can we help you? Or even come into my shop. If they saw through the window, we're really close. Ask them, hey, that's our customer patient. You shouldn't sell the product to them. They can't handle that. So we do support them. Say, sure. We try to be really nice, positive to say, hey, you probably have to talk to come here rather than come here to just have 5 minutes happy, and rather go to come here, find a job, happy for the rest of life. So I think the best place for the come here is are you thinking you should put an office in my shop than supporting us, rather say you, hey, move away, and then they just try to cover their own eyes. I can't see the shop. That is not means the shop's not there. It's actually there. We have to face the reality that it's already happened. It's not just go, hey, you have to move. Even we move, what happened for the other shop? So that's what I'm thinking. And sometimes when we had a complaint and say, hey, the customer have our car park. I said, why are you just thinking have a car, watching the people watch your car park? Why just coming to the shop? Talk to me. And then we know what can we do for the kind of people, because we are not really professional to deal with people who have a mental problem. And even you're not going to be able to ask people, hey, do you have a problem? If people doesn't have a problem, they probably say, oh, you're probably joking. If people does have the problem, then what they can do for the people who sell the product, which is not really fair for us. I think they should be working close to us. It's like a casino. When you go casino, on the wall say, if you have a gambling problem, ring the phone number and sign the form, say not coming to a casino anymore. I think there's the same situation like us. On the other hand, is a location. On the drafts, they say a location 100 meters away from the system site. What is a sensitive site? For example, school. Is it the children only living in the hundreds of meters, or are they walking past the R18 shop every day? So I think it's a really good way to teach the children, to educate the children what is R18 shop, why distance. I think distance is not a big issue for where the R18 shop is. It depends on the people who's working the R18 shop. What's the policy for the shop? Like if the people under 18 working, what are you going to tell them? How can you tell them you shouldn't come into the shop? There's an adult shop. And another thing is the location. On the draft said they encourage us to move to the city centre, especially in Christchurch at the moment. City centre is really, really hard to move on. Imagine you have 8 shops, which is we have 8 interim lessons in Christchurch at the moment. Imagine you move 8 shops into the city centre. I don't think so. It's really good looking for the city centre later on to build up as a rebuilding stuff. And then when the tourism walk in your city centre, you have 8 adult shops all around the city centre. I don't think so. Really, really good looking for the city centre as well, rather than you have all in a different area and have a workshop with us to tell us how can we deal with all different kind of peoples. Yeah, that's my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shipley?
Thank you, Jen. My name's Tony Shipley. I've been involved in the industry for many, many years. We have a company called Snitchell Group of Companies, and we hold 7 licences under the Psychoactive Act. We're manufacturers, we research, and we also retailers. We have a store at Hornby called Weirdo's Adult Store. I think you're all well aware of where it is, etc. My feelings on the whole subject...
Sorry.
My feelings on the whole subject is because we have 8 shops across Christchurch, and demographically they're probably very well positioned where they are today. Maybe we should just look and leave those shops where they are. If we have any new licences come along, then we should look at these licences, where we're going to put these shops, etc. We're missing a shop from the northern part, Papanui area, maybe to service this area. If somebody wants a shop in the northern part, maybe we should look at that, but leave the shops as they are. Points in shifting them into the city, I cannot see any point at all. We're going to put a lot of vehicles and a lot of people into the city during the day, and the infrastructure in the city today won't stand that. My shop alone on some days has over 300 customers, and I'm sure the Brighton shop has a similar. I'm not sure how many Jenny has in Lincoln Road. We're putting that many vehicles probably into the inner city. I can't see it working. The other thing, I work on a regular basis in my shop at Hornby, Thursday night, Friday night and a Saturday night. I talk to your sons, etc. They come into the shop and I say to them, what have you been doing? What's the plan for tonight? And you know the most common thing I get told? Oh, we're going to get smashed off our face tonight. Now they've been to the supermarket and they've bought a bottle of wine, or they've bought a bottle of whatever. They've been to the bottle store, they've bought a bottle of vodka or bourbon. They've been round the corner in the back shed and they've bought some pills that they don't even know what's in it. And it could be the N-bomb, which has been in the news lately. And they've come to us to buy some smoking product, which is the only probably really good legal product out of the whole lot. And they go away and they put the whole lot together and they take the whole lot. If they're really lucky, they might just go to sleep and wake up the next morning with a really bad hangover. If they're unlucky, they're going to end up down at Christchurch Hospital in the A&E. Okay? Now, the point that I'm trying to make, do we change this? And how do we change this whole situation? We're not going to make drugs go away. We're not going to make alcohol, which is another psychoactive product, go away. What we need to do is basically start educating these young people not to abuse their bodies like this. It causes liver failure, it causes kidney problems, it causes all sorts of health problems. The hospital's seeing it. I read in the report that we've gone from 2 reports a month to 6 reports. I've read the latest report from the NPC, the National Poison Centre. We've got an age breakdown. The biggest amount of reports across the whole country come from 15, 16 and 17-year-old youth. Not 18, 20, 30-year-olds, that young bracket. Why? Because they send an older person into my shop, or the older person comes into my shop, buys the smoking product and gives it to them. Totally unexperienced, they'll smoke a whole packet. They'll end up down at the hospital, or they'll ring the National Poison Centre, or mum and dad will ring the National Poison Centre. My son's having some sort of seizure because he smoked a whole packet and he's 15 years of age. Who gave it to him? An adult gave it to him, an over 18 gave it to him. Why should this person be allowed to give him that? And my product has been given to this 15-year-old to smoke, and he goes down to the hospital and says, I smoked a packet of XT or another product. I'm in the cart. Not the person that gave him the product. Alcohol is the same. Normal tobacco is the same. It all comes under the same issue. So do we go and say, let's shift all these shops into the centre of the city and that's going to cure the problem? Or do we get off our chuffs and get out there and start educating these young people that are abusing your body with alcohol, with drugs, illegally made drugs in the back shed around there somewhere which nobody knows what goes in them, is a good deal? Or do we educate them and say, you can go down to the psychoactive shop, we'll call it artificial cannabis shop or whatever we like to call it, and buy something that's made in a manufacturing facility which has a licence and has very strict controls under the MOH, and you know what you're getting. Or you go down and buy a product called the N-bomb, and you might end up in hospital, or you might die. I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've pretty much come to the end of the time for that, so thank you very much for your submission. Much appreciated. Thank you both. So now we move on to the deputation in relation to Freedom Camping investigation.
Yep, it was on as a Part C item, so she wants it to be extended to the
Right. Yeah, Strategy and Planning Committee, Andrea Cummings, Chairperson, Burwood Pegasus. I thought that we had agreed that chairs would speak to these when they got their reports. It's an item C matter, I'm told, sorry, that you wanted to speak to.
Okay.
So it's not one that's up for a council decision today. Is that right? Have I got that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was yeah.
So, sorry, hang on. I'm just getting. I'm just getting it. For page 41. No, not page 41. Where is it?
624.
Sorry, it's quick. Right.
She wants to argue that they also have a workshop for Burwood Pegasus.
But isn't this... All right. Okay, so the item that you want to speak to, and perhaps it should have been made clear, is that it's not an item that we're considering for a decision today. It's just simply a Part C delegated decision. So Strategy and Planning have resolved that they're going to hold a workshop with the Akaroa Wairea Community Board. So, yeah. I mean, if you want to make the point that Burwood Pegasus wants to have one too, then fine, but it's not...
Basically that was it. It was staff that came to me and said that I should come and speak to you guys today to get that point across. So,
I wonder if you could put it on the board chair, your board agenda, and just bring it as an item to the council that way. I mean, it just seems to me that to ask us to make a decision about something,
Yeah, I just took staff advice. I mean, staff contacted me about this. I didn't know anything about it, and they just said, come and give a deputation, so...
All right, well, okay, well, I mean, I don't want to waste your time, and we want a good process, but if that's the case, that you've received advice from staff to come and make a presentation on it, and I understand you want to use the time also to comment on the sport and rec.
Yes, my comments are very brief, so I won't take up your time. So tourists, tradies and transients, they've long been an issue with human waste, household waste, people staying longer than one night, and it's been significantly exacerbated by the quakes and the lack of housing and tourism accommodation options. It's so brazen that a few days ago I went down to the car park at New Brighton, and outdoor furniture had been set up outside the camper van. Washing lines were hanging between the camper vans and the toilets, blocking users of the facilities from accessing the toilets without almost having to walk through the camping site of this camper van. Basically we just want to be included and as part of that, either the workshop with Akaroa Waiwera or as a separate workshop. I think in that report it does quite clearly talk about the coastal area of the urban Christchurch area, so South Shore up to North New Brighton as being an area of problem as well. So that's on that point.
Carry on.
So the aquatics, I just wanted to make 3 really quick points. The emotional recovery of our ward, Burwood Pegasus, is intrinsically tied with the rebuilding of an aquatic facility. The community are asking for a swimming facility, a 50-metre pool, diving, learn to swim, kids' play areas, hydroslides, and they see it as a legacy project. But it feels like we're going to get a small square swimming box with a basketball court tucked away in a suburban residential area or tied into a school with very little real access by residents. And so either way is the staff recommendation. I know there's been changes in the last few days. I've been in hospital and things, so I haven't had a chance to keep totally up to date with it. But either way is the staff recommendation stands, one community gets its expectations raised and then dashed. So that's just the points I wanted to bring today.
Thank you. I've just had a quick chat to the Acting Chief Executive, and she will have a talk to you about how we can get the first item on the agenda of your board, community board, so that it can be addressed directly by your community board, and then that's a good process for bringing it back. In terms of the other, Yanni?
Our board's also been through this process a few years ago. One of the key groups is actually Department of Conservation, because actually there's a lot of land in these areas that aren't actually owned by council. So support Akaroa Waiwera doing their own thing, because I know they've got unique issues. But I think when Jane looks at it, you might like to think about maybe Burwood Pegasus and Hagley Ferry Road having a joint workshop. That would
be great, because I think there are very similar issues across the 2 wards. Are there any other questions for Andrea? It's great. Yanni?
Just like the question that was asked previously of the previous deputations, do you support a replacement facility, the 30 million or whatever, the medium-sized QE2 replacement, going back at QE2 or around that area, and a separate legacy project for New Brighton? Or do you think all of the 30 million should be spent in New Brighton as the legacy project? I mean,
But my personal opinion, I'm not obviously speaking for the board, and only I put the proviso on, it's only with what I know at the moment. We don't have all the information to make a decision, so I have been reluctant to publicly state my position on that. But I do like the concept of putting a QE2 or better than Jelly Park-like facility back around that QE2 area. That appears to be the public's opinion on where it should go. But I also absolutely love the idea of a legacy project in New Brighton, with that point of difference that makes it unique and special to that suburb.
If I may, what is the extra information that you need to come to a conclusion about what we do?
I think the biggest thing that's holding me up from making a decision would be the land information, the geotechnical reports. I'm a geologist, so that really interests me. We've got so many hazards and things that we have to try and mitigate. There's so many potential additional costs in some of the land locations that we need to look at before we can make a decision. I know the community has had its expectations raised and then smashed so many times, and I'd be really disappointed if we all went out in public and said QE2, 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 and then in 6 months' time we get a geotechnical report that says there's no way it can be built there. Then that's just going to really upset the community again. So that's why I'm holding off.
Very helpful, thank you. Pauline?
Thank you. Just quickly, you did mention, you said, I think you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, you don't want to end up with a pool attached to a school. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I don't so much mind that it's
your personal view or the board's view.
Yeah, I think this. I mean, even that is my own view. We hear a lot of, I guess, I don't know if criticism's the right word, but I'm too tired to come up with a better word at the moment. About Graham Condon, that it's very inaccessible to the public for significant chunks of the time because the school have sort of, I don't know exactly how it works, first rights to it, or they just simply swamp it. And it also seems to be closed at quite an extraordinary amount of time. Seems to have very little capacity. If one pool's closed, it seems to shut almost the whole system down. So our concern is that if it does go to a school, and for example, Aranui High, I mean, they're talking of eventually a school population of around 1,700 pupils. That's going to take a lot of pool space to cater for them, especially if it's on their site. They're going to make use of that. So we don't want that to be at the expense of the public being able to access it. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Helen Broughton, who's being spoken for by Mike Moore, I understand, on the Denton Oval amenity block strengthening, which is item number 19 on the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors. I don't need to stand for this one. Page 526. The Denton Oval amenity block strengthening. That issue has been to our community board. We have met with and had deputations from the Hornby Rugby Club. They lost the use of the lower part of the Denton Oval complex, which is where the showers and changing rooms are after the earthquake. The top stand has been reopened since then, but the facilities underneath have been lost. And really, without wasting too much of your busy time today, Madam Mayor and councillors, we just urge you to support the recommendation, the staff recommendation. And I just point out on 3.3, there is a preferred contractor who has been identified who can begin the work promptly. And I just say that when we had the first deputation from the rugby club, the season was due to start in 6 weeks. So the season's virtually due to start now. So what I'm saying is, if this matter can be proceeded with urgency, it'd be much appreciated by the sporting community in our ward. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any questions?
No, that was very short and sharp and sweet.
I realise you do have a busy day.
Very much appreciated. Thank you. Isaac Theatre Royal Loan Amendment to Deed of Priority, page 564 on the agenda. I think Neil Cox and David Stock wanted to make a deputation on this.
Good afternoon. David had to leave, unfortunately. His time is quite precious, as is everyone's, so I'll make this as brief as possible. This is a deputation really to increase the primary for the other mortgagee holders on the Isaac Theatre Royal property. Council in August approved a loan to the ITR of $2 million, interest-free for 5 years. That has been contracted, and we haven't drawn down on it as yet, but as we've now been requesting that the ASB Bank, who are our bankers, be able to increase their primary so that we can have a lending possibility through the bank as well. To give you a little bit of an update as to where this has all come from, when we approached council in July last year, the theatre was facing around about a 10 million shortfall. So the loan was put forward and approved on that basis then. We haven't drawn down on it, as I said. ASB Bank, early on in the piece, had an earthquake recovery package of $1 million interest-free for a year, which we took up at the point because we were severely cash-strapped at the time based on the fact that our insurance hadn't been settled. In the last month, the Lottery Significant Projects Fund granted us $6 million, which hasn't been made massive public knowledge yet, but it is public on the government's website, which has significantly, obviously, shortened our need, but the $2 million from council had always been included in our shortfall projections going forward. So the building process is steaming along on the basis of that lottery grant. We were getting to the point where we were getting a little bit hesitant on releasing scopes of work because being a charitable trust, the trustees, etc., it was starting to get a little bit testy. That has solved a large degree of that, but we still face somewhere between a 1 to 3 million shortfall, which is still to be determined on costs, obviously, but that has been taken into account, assuming that the council loan is already in the mix, so to speak. So to allow that shortfall to be covered, the ASB Bank, who we changed over from our original bankers, which was the BNZ, about 2 years ago, have asked to increase their primary. So essentially all we're here for today is to talk to this being a change in the contract that already exists, and getting a bit of a okay on that basis, because we still need to move forward.
Does anyone have any questions? Rav?
Yeah, hi Neil, thanks for that. So in terms of the drawdown, we're looking at a maximum of 10.9 million of all mortgages. Would that be correct?
A maximum, yeah. I really don't think, I mean, that at the end of the day we'll be drawing down on the full amount from the ASB.
So the question is, how much is drawn down so far, and how much do you think you'll need to draw down?
The 1 million that we had originally from ASB has been drawn down and spent because it was quite handy at the time. Yep. That has now matured to its 1 year allowance at interest free. So that matured at the end of February. What ASB are doing is packaging that into an extended loan facility so that we don't start paying the interest on that basis just yet. The rest, nothing has been drawn down.
Okay. So basically, all you've borrowed basically is 1 million so far.
Indeed.
What do you think you're going to need to borrow to get to the end of the project?
We've got capacity for another 2 easily within our business models. We've got 5-year projections on the basis of what the theatre can achieve based on previous results. And obviously the fact that we are probably the first major cab off the rank as regards a performance venue in the city, with plans to be open at the end of October. So our projections are obviously a lot better than they used to be, but it gives us a much better lending capacity.
So you're saying that you're unlikely to draw down on the council's 2 million?
No, we want to draw down on the council.
Okay, so in terms of you've only drawn down 1, what do you think you'll end up drawing down? We
ideally, based on pure cash flow basis, we'd like to draw down on the entire 2 million because it's an interest-free facility. I mean, that would make good business sense, whereas the bank's facility is obviously interest.
Yeah, so basically, 1 from ASB, 2 from us, that leaves you potentially 5 extra?
No, 5 extra as a facility, yes, which we will likely
need to access
not use.
Right, okay.
Vicky?
Actually, I understood the finances ahead of this. You open in October with what capacity for a performance?
Capacity of seats?
Yeah.
Anywhere between 1,250 and 1,300, depending on configuration.
Awesome. And that's October this year?
It's October this year.
Thank you.
Just can't give you an absolute date yet.
Very good. All right. No further questions? Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Very good. Thank you.
Right, presentation of petitions. There are none. Supplementary reports. Could